Now, the forces of church and state appear to be on collision course tonight after the government pledged to press ahead with plans to legalise gay marriage by 2015, despite the opposition of the Church of England. Since 2005, same-sex couples have been able to form a civil partnership, but ministers plan to change the law to allow them full legal marriage status. The proposals would allow same-sex couples to marry in a register office or other civil ceremony. Couples already in a civil partnership could convert it into a marriage, but a ban remains on same-sex couples marrying in a religious service. In its response, the Church of England says the move would change the definition of marriage as the union of a man and a woman. By allowing marital status, it would remove the Church's role as religious registrar of marriage on behalf of the state. And the Church fears that its exemption from performing gay marriage would be challenged in both domestic and European courts, threatening the existing union between Church and state. Despite the opposition, the Home Secretary today insisted the government plans to legislate by 2015.
Well, the government's very clear that we're not going to ask anybody to do anything that goes against their conscience. So religious organisations and churches won't be forced to host same-sex marriages. But we do believe that marriage is important, that it is a part of stability of our society, it binds people together. We believe it's important to recognise commitment, and that's why we have been consulting on recognising same-sex civil marriage.
Well, leading the Church of England opposition to the plans is the Bishop of Leicester, the Right Reverend Tim Stevens. Our Midlands correspondent Darshna Soni went to speak to him and others in his diocese.
Hey, buddy, all right?
A busy lunchtime at this gay-friendly bar in Leicester. The city has a thriving gay and lesbian community. Campaigner Bernard Greaves has lived here since the 70s and has seen the struggle his community has gone through for equality. He welcomes proposals for same-sex marriages.
The issue is equality. This is the last major step in establishing equality in law for lesbians, gay and bisexual people.
But you already have civil partnerships. Why do you need marriages?
Civil partnerships and marriages are not the same thing. You can't have partial equality. You have equality or no equality.
But bar owner James Cockrell says there's a generational difference between the attitudes of his customers.
I think for some people, maybe younger people, maybe younger gay people that come in the venue, I think they maybe think the fight's already been done, whereas obviously a lot of our older customers, they've been fighting for decades.
So just how important is the issue? The Bishop of Leicester told the media today that most ordinary people care deeply about the institution of marriage being between a man and a woman.
But isn't the Church in danger of looking hopelessly out of touch?
The Church is always in danger of looking out of touch. I think the Church could rightly be accused of sometimes dragging its feet, sometimes appearing to be grudging in its acceptance of gay people, but this has nothing to do with that.
Is the Bishop right in claiming the Church has the support of many people of different faiths and backgrounds? We went out and about in his diocese to find out.
With so many issues facing the country right now, some have asked why the Prime Minister has chosen to take this on now, with one former minister describing the issue of gay marriage as the obsession of the metropolitan elite.
Many here said there certainly were more pressing things to worry about.
I think there is a possibility that the Church and state may split over it. But as an issue, it doesn't bother me.
It's not that important?
Well, there's more important things in the world to worry about than that.
And that's the concern of some within the Church itself who disagree with the Bishop.
Should the Church be concentrating on this issue?
No.
Why not?
Because there are many more important things that the Church should really be concerned about. And if it wants to tackle the government about anything, there are issues of child poverty, there are issues of social exclusion.
Religious leaders from Leicester's other communities have come out in support of the official Church of England position.
The Quran is very, very clear that marriage is between a man and a woman. This is a relationship which is sanctified by the laws of God.
The consultation ends on Thursday, and the government wants to introduce the new legislation by the end of this Parliament. Darshna Soni, Channel 4 News, Leicester.
Well, with me now, the Reverend Dr. Malcolm Brown, Director of Mission and Public Affairs for the Church of England, and Canon Giles Goddard, who's a parish priest in London and a representative on the General Synod. But you believe your bosses, if you like, in the church hierarchy are wrong?
This statement has saddened me, really. It saddened me for three reasons. Partly because I don't think it's speaking for me, partly because I don't think it's helped the Church of England, and partly because I think it's theologically on ground which isn't very strong.
Why? On the last point.
On the last point. Because I think what those of us who want to see gay marriage expanded want to open up the definition of marriage to include those who want to form and celebrate stable, lifelong commitment in the eyes of God and of society. And I think that there are strong biblical justifications for opening up the definition in that way.
Malcolm Brown, why don't you want to?
Well, first of all, let me say that we are very much in favour of commitment, mutuality, fidelity, all the virtues which relationships, same-sex or heterosexual, can embody. But the definition of marriage, as one of your respondents just said, is traditionally and for many centuries between a man and a woman for life.
But why don't you want to change it, as your colleague here says?
Because you could only open it up, as Giles puts it, by actually hollowing it out for the people who believe that there's something intrinsic in marriage about a man and a woman and the possibility of having children.
So you're saying if you allow a gay marriage, the heterosexual marriage is in some way demeaned or devalued or destroyed?
Over time, not my marriage now, but over time my children, my grandchildren's understanding of marriage will be reduced by that amount.
What do you think of that?
I don't understand it, to be honest. I simply don't understand it. I mean, there are a lot of very strong lesbian and gay partnerships which are currently bringing up children, and bringing up children very successfully. I think if we expand marriage to include lesbian and gay people, then it will be strengthened, because people will understand that at the heart of these things is commitment, and commitment both within the family and commitment between individuals. So I can't see that your grandchildren would
just
have a
explain
problem.
why this is a very key point, and a lot of gay people in particular will find it very offensive that you think their relationship demeans a heterosexual relationship.
I didn't say it demeaned.
Well, you say hollowing out. That's pretty demeaning, isn't it?
It reduces it to only part of its meaning. I'm absolutely with Giles on the importance of commitment. I'm absolutely with Giles, I'm sure, on fidelity and questions like that. I'm saying that there's more to marriage as currently understood than that. It involves it, and yes, all sorts of people, including gay and lesbian people, bring up children. But there's something quite important about being brought up also with your biological parents.
What about the broader point in Darshan Soni's piece from another of your colleagues saying, have you not noticed what's going on in the world? You know, they're not more important things to be talking about right now than this.
Well, that's, of course, an argument used on both sides. By those who don't want gay marriage, say the government should be concentrating on other things, and by people who do, saying the church should be concentrating on other things. I think, like the government, the Church of England is a big enough organisation to do a bit of multitasking.
Same thing goes for you, doesn't it? I mean, well, you've got better things to do as well.
Yes, I've got many better things, like working in my parish in South London. But I think part of the problem is that at the moment the Church's position means that it can't speak with authority on anything else, because it's perceived as being homophobic. It's perceived as excluding a whole range of people from full membership.
Because what you're both saying really is that this will destroy the Church in some way. You're saying if this goes ahead, this will break the relationship between church and state. You're saying if it doesn't go ahead, then the church will be destroyed anyway by perception.
No, I didn't say that. I said it would be damaging to the relationship between church and state, but it wouldn't destroy it. The relationship between church and state is, you know, a multi-stranded cord, but this is snipping away at one bit.
I think what I really regret about the statement is that it seems to be trying to close down the discussion. It says this is the definition and there can be no change. And yet even within the church, there's a lot of discussion about this. And there are very senior members of the church, the Bishop of Salisbury, for example, who's come out in favour of gay marriage, the Dean of St. Paul's. And that's not reflected in this document. I think it would have been a more constructive document if it had said, this is a position, but it's possible that
the government has said they're going to go ahead. So what does this mean? Are you saying over our dead body?
No, we're saying you have not thought about a lot of quite important points. I'm afraid the consultation document was seriously deficient in...
But they're going to go ahead. They've said it. They're going to go ahead.
If they go
so what
ahead,
are you going to do?
They have a great deal of legislation to consider first. And we don't think they've actually looked at the significance of that legislation either for society or for questions of the Church's relationship to government.
Clearly, there's work to be done, and we'll wait and see what form the legislation is actually presented in. But the principle is a good one. The principle needs to be supported. The principle that gay relationships are equivalent to heterosexual relationships and should receive the same respect within society. I think my problem is this: however you frame it, civil partnerships are in some way less significant and less important.
The same respect, but don't call to different things by the same name.
We must leave it there. Canon Giles Goddard, Reverend Dr. Malcolm Brown, thank you both very much. John.
Falkland Islanders to be given the chance to vote on whether they wish to stay British.